Okay, so let's start with the prayer. वह शक्ति हमें दो दया निधे, कर्तव्य मार्ग पर डट जावे, पर सेवा पर उपकार में हम निज जीवन सफल बना जावे। वह शक्ति हमें दो दया निधे, कर्तव्य मार्ग पर डट जावे। हम दीन दुखी निबलो विकलो, के सेवक बन संताप हरे। जो है बिछुड़े भूले भटके, उनको तारे खुद तर जावे। वह शक्ति हमें दो दया निधे, कर्तव्य मार्ग पर डट जावे। छल द्वेष दंभ पाखंड झूठ, अन्याय से निश दिन दूर रहे। जीवन हो शुद्ध सरल अपना, शुचि प्रेम सुधारस बरसावे। वह शक्ति हमें दो दया निधे, कर्तव्य मार्ग पर डट जावे। निज आन मान मर्यादा का, प्रभु ध्यान रहे अभिमान रहे। जिस देव भूमि में जन्म लिया, बलिदान उसी पर हो जावे। वह शक्ति हमें दो दया निधे, कर्तव्य मार्ग पर डट जावे. So it is a prayer asking for the Almighty to provide the strength so that we can move forward in the path of service, where we leave our ego, anger, and hatredness, and we request the Lord that He gives us the strength to serve those who are in need, who are suffering, and who are weak. So this is the essence of the prayer, and we will move to today's session. I hope I am audible and visible.
Yes, Krishnamurti.
Okay.
To me, yes.
Okay, great. Thank you. Okay, so today's session is the paper which I had presented in the Sansthan or the ASPES annual conference 2020, and the title of the paper which I presented was Mysteries of TCM. As I had mentioned in the group chat, that there are many things in TCM which do not align with the traditional understanding or any other forms of medicine. So it is important to understand, and it is quite mysterious on why the Chinese philosophers or the philosophers who came up with TCM, what was their thinking behind it. And as I generally mention in all my classes, these are very unexplored or underexplored topics. Okay, so in most of the uh, books that I have studied, or know that I have the classes that I have attended, it is only mentioned that okay, this is like this, but why it is like this, the answers are very uh, like it is far, it is, we don't find those answers in elaborate details. Even if there is an answer, it is very concise answers which we get. And the whole genesis of this paper started when, like, about, I have been in this field of acupressure learning as a student from past about 2 years. And it was like about 1 year back. I was in a class where Sushila Kamath madam was teaching basics of human body. And after the class, she asked one question. Say in our West, she is an allopath doctor for more than 40 years of experience. She was telling, okay, in allopathy, we say that for both inhalation and exhalation, lungs is responsible. But in TCM, it is mentioned that for inhalation, kidney is responsible, and for exhalation, lungs is responsible. Why is that? Or like, how does it fit into the logic or understanding? And that was the genesis from where this whole topic came up in my mind. And I was thinking, yes, it is a very fair question which she is asking. What could be the reason? Okay, and this topic came up, and I started exploring. Out of so many mysterious things in TCM, I have taken up a very small pieces, and I have tried to explain in my own way. And as I keep telling very often, please take, as these are unexplored topics, please take it with a pinch of salt. What I am telling may be correct, may be partially correct, or may be totally incorrect, or it may be a partial piece of the whole jigsaw puzzle that I may be touching upon. Okay, so with this, I like, this is an image, and the light is falling from different directions, and it is casting different shadows. So when we see the object from different angles, we get to see different perspectives of an object. So when on this side, it the shadow is showing a square, on this side it is showing a circle, and on this side it is a triangle. So the object is one, but depending on how we see it, the way that we perceive the object is different. For example, let us take any example. Okay, I have a pen over here. I hope you all are able to see. Let me stop sharing my screen for a moment. Okay. Are you all able to see my? Okay. See, I am having a pencil over here. Say if I hold my pencil like this, you are able to see the whole length of the pencil. But if I hold the pencil like this, what do you see? You just see a circle. I'll bring closer. So you just see a circle. You don't see anything else. But if I hold it like this, you see the entire length. The entire length gets merged when I rotate the angle of view. It just becomes a small blue dot. Okay, and if I do the same thing like this, okay, you don't see a black dot, but you see like a steel kind of needle with the different layers of this thing. You don't see anything blue in this view. It is still the same pencil. It has same characteristic, but to my perception, the entire pencil has changed from something which is blue dot to something which is steel in color. And if I hold it like this, now you are able to see the handle of the clip to which we are putting it into our, say, pocket. Say, but if I rotate it like this, that clip is merged. You don't see it. If I totally rotate it like this towards the back, you don't see it, right? So in the same way, so I'll start my sharing. Okay, it is in the same way, like replace the body with, sorry, replace the pencil with the body, and with every different perspective, the understanding changes, or the way that we see it. So the whole exercise here is to understand the way that the TCM philosophers saw the human body. Say Ayurveda sees it in one way, homeopathy sees it in another way, Western medicine sees it in another way. What we are trying to do here is to understand how the TCM people saw the human body, and why they came up with so much of, like how they came up with this philosophy, which is so unique by itself compared to the other forms of medicine. And whatever is my presentation over here is based on one statement: the functioning of the human body is fully logical. There is nothing illogical in the human body. Everything is logical. What is that we have to do is we have to figure out that logic. In the A logic has different levels to it. It can be something very grossly physical, which we can see through the eyes, and the next level could be something invisible energies, which we can't see through the eyes, and the next level could be something highly spiritual, okay, which requires a total different dimensions of understanding. So all of us have a mobile phone. We can see the mobile phone, but can we see the connection between the mobile phone and the tower? No, it is totally invisible. Say around that whole phone, there is so much of 3G connection, 4G connection, so many types of waves are around that phone, but none of them are visible. The voice which is coming into the phone is not visible. When you are browsing the internet and watching a video on the phone, the video is visible on the phone, but how it enters the phone, can you see it? No, it is not visible. So something very similar is happening within the human body. So what we are trying to do is we are trying to connect the logic, which is at different level, the visible, invisible, and something totally spiritual level, and to understand how much ever is possible within our frame of mind. Okay. So is what is an attempt that we are trying to do. So once again, it could be correct, partially correct, or totally incorrect. The only guiding principle here is as long as it makes sense. Logically, if it is correct, we are trying to see, okay, this could be the reason. So first we will start with this the seed of this whole topic. The kidney controls the inhalation, whereas the lungs controls the exhalation. What could be the reason? So if we have to find an answer to this, we will have to read this book, Treatise 7, page 12. Okay, so which is written by our beloved MP Khemka sir. And there in that book, it is mentioned that whenever a human being is born, there is a counted number of breaths are received, okay, for this life. Okay, when a person takes birth for this particular life, this person will have these many lakhs or millions of breaths that this person will take, and that is predetermined. With that information, the uh, a person is born. Now if that is the case, where is the data? Okay, let us for our discussion, let's say 100 breaths is the count with which the person is born with. Where in that human body is that 100 stored? Right, it should be somewhere stored in the body, because based on that only the whole in the breaths, inhalation and exhalation happens. We know that all that information about the body is stored in the form of life essence in kidney. We call it as kidney essence, right? So the kidney essence has okay, before I proceed further, I know there are some new participants in this class who are very new to the field of acupressure. Anything which you do not understand, please ignore it at this point, because some of the concept which I will be discussing will be of an advanced level. So anything that you don't understand, just ignore it. See logically what you understand. Then when you read those concepts, it will make sense. Okay. So for as of now, whatever you can grasp, only that much you take into your mind, and others you can conveniently ignore. Okay, so I was telling about the life essence which is stored in the kidney. So in TCM we say kidney essence, it has the information. So now, like now imagine a reverse counter. What happens is, you even in your phone you would see that a countdown no counter, like say you set 100, and from every second it will start going downwards from 100, say 99, 98, 97, and finally it will come to 0. Something very similar is happening in here also. Those who are from software field, those who write codes, developers or testers, anybody, they can easily understand what I'm telling. It is something which they do it on a daily basis. So there will be a loop, and they set a counter, and they put a number into that counter, and it will be a down no countdown, the counter which moves downwards. So I have only 10 minutes left for this session. So once the session ends, we will rejoin with the same user ID and password, and we will continue the session. Okay. So once the this 10 minutes ends, we will rejoin with the same user ID, password, or the link, and we will continue the session. So, so we were talking about the reverse counter. So now, whenever we are born, okay, I was giving the example of the software people. So when in that scenario, in the loop, there is a counter and a number is fed into the counter, and every time that loop has to come, first what the program does or the control does, it goes and sees the counter. Okay, is it less than 0? Okay, let's say for example, for the first time, is it less than 0? Yes. So then it continues the loop, and once when the loop is done, the counter reduces by 1, say from 900 to 99. Second time when the control comes, it checks, is it less than equal or more than 0? Yes. So 99 it once again does. The number keeps on reducing until it reaches 0. 1, it will do it, and by that time it would have come to 0. So next time when it comes, it sees the number is equal to 0. So now it will not continue with the loop. So it will exit the loop. Okay, something very similar. First, the control comes to that kidney. It will see what is the count over there. So if it is 99, so it will pass the control back to the lungs. Okay, so for before the inhalation starts, the count has to be checked in the kidney. Once that count is positive, so next so the inhalation happens, and next the control is passed to the lungs, and the exhalation happens by the lungs. So first the control comes, checks in kidney. If it is positive, it inhales. Then for exhalation, the control is passed back to the lungs, and the exhalation happens. So this is the way with which the inhalation and exhalation is happening. So what is happening over here? The kidney is responsible for the inhalation, and the lungs is responsible for the exhalation. So here we are not seeing, okay, Okay. Somebody wants me to repeat it. Okay, I'm trying to, okay, let me do something over here. Okay, let's, and let's assume this as, okay. So now here, the count is over here. Okay, when the baby is born, and let's say it is 100 is the count. Okay, so first the life energy or the control first comes here, sees if it is 0. No, it is more than 0. So then the inhalation happens and the control is passed to the lungs, where the lungs exhales. And for the next thing, so it has to come and check. Here in kidney, is it equal to 0? So it is, now it is 99. So it is not equal to 0. Inhalation happens and the control passes to the lungs, the exhalation happens. And this cycle keeps on continuing until, say, now the count is 1. So the control comes here. Is it equal to 0? No, it is 1. So inhalation happens. When inhalation happens, 1 is reduced. It becomes 0. And now the lungs, the control is passed to lungs. The exhalation happens. Now the control once again comes to the kidney, checks if it is equal to 0. Yes, it is equal to 0. So no more count is left for the inhalation to happen. So it exits. Right? This movement from lungs to kidney, the control is passed from kidney and lungs between these two continuously. And that is why I feel that the TCM philosophers mentioned that inhalation is controlled by kidney and the exhalation is controlled by lungs. This is an extremely wild way of thinking and perceiving some logic to which there is no logic. As I told, physically it looks so absurd. As an allopath, or even to all the normal people who have learned any kind of medicine, or any person with any medical background, they feel both for inhalation and exhalation lungs is responsible. But TCM says for inhalation kidney is responsible, for exhalation lungs is responsible. But how? Why is it so? And this is one kind of logic which I could think of. So based on the count, and that is clearly documented in TCM. Okay, somebody's Prakash R is doing something with the screen, and that is creating the this thing. Please okay, refrain from doing it. Okay, fine. So this part is clear. Anybody has any question on this?
Krishnamurthy, this is Vidya.
Uh-huh. Yes.
Just now you said that when the count is equal to 0, it
Mhm.
means that's the end of the life.
Yes. That is the end of the current life.
So how can we assume or understand that the count in the kidney is 0?
Okay,
Is it possible
Vidya.
by any diagnosis?
No, Vidya ji, you are from which semester?
I am now with
Hello.
yes.
You are from which
Am
semester?
I audible?
Yes, yes. Now you are audible.
Just completed 5th semester.
You have completed 5th semester. Okay. See,
Yeah.
we know you. Then you would definitely have learnt about kidney essence.
Yeah.
Right. So what is the kidney essence? It
Yes.
has the essence of the entire life person, like the body. Like what kind
Yes.
should be your skin, hair, your voice tone, etc. Everything is
Yes,
stored in that
everything.
kidney essence.
Kidney.
So, and
Yeah.
it is also mentioned that a person is born with a given amount of counts of breath. That is documented, right? So it means that the question will be, where is that data? Where is it? Should be stored somewhere inside the body, right? This
Yes.
person. So most likelihood, the best place that we can see is, we can think of it as in kidney essence.
Okay.
Right. So it is stored in the kidney.
Fine. Yes.
That is where the
Yes,
whole genesis starts. Okay. And as Sushila Kamath ma'am is telling, it is the genetic map of the whole person is stored in the kidney essence.
One confusion, sir.
Yes.
Sir, we usually say with the structure and function of lungs, inhale, exhalation happens there, and gaseous exchange takes place.
Okay, there
How
is
kidney-
one moment. It is less than a minute that we have. Okay, if it disconnects, we will rejoin with the same link or
Okay.
user ID password. Okay, please ask.
Yes. Sir, how kidney is responsible for inhalation and only lung for exhalation?
Yeah, that is what. See, there is no explanation given in any of the books which I have read. Okay, so now there should be a reason for them to say that inhalation happens. Inhalation is controlled by kidney. Okay. Okay, fine. The question was, how do we know that kidney inhales, right?
Yes. Yes.
Okay, the kidney doesn't inhale. Okay, what TCM says is, inhalation is controlled by kidney. It doesn't say kidney inhales. Lung itself inhales, but the inhalation process is controlled by kidney. Right, makes sense?
Yes, sir. Yes.
Okay. So anybody else?
The difference in oxygen or carbon dioxide pressure created in that kidney has some role like that. Am I
Yes,
right,
yes,
sir?
yes, exactly. So,
ಸರ್ ಇದು
Sir, good evening, sir.
yes, good evening.
ಸರ್ ಇದು ಅಕಾಲಿಕ ಮೃತ್ಯು ಅಂತ ಹೇಳ್ತಾರಲ್ಲ ಈ ಅಕಾಲಿಕ ಮೃತ್ಯುನಲ್ಲಿ ಅವಾಗ ಕಿಡ್ನಿ ಎಸೆನ್ಸ್ ಏನು ನಂಬರ್ ಆಫ್ ಬ್ರೆತ್ಸ್ ಅದು ಫಿಕ್ಸ್ ಆಗಿರುತ್ತೆ ಅಂತಾರಲ್ಲ ಅವಾಗ ಇದಕ್ಕೂ ಹೇಗೆ
Okay, so okay, I'll answer. The question here is untimely death, accident
Accidental
happens
death.
and all those things. How does it function? So I'll have to leave the medical arena and get into something at a very philosophical level, spiritual level. Okay, I will leave this question. I will not answer this question because it will take into different realms. Okay, so consider that the accident happened because the count was about to come to zero, right? Okay, in that way you can understand. Like it is, as I told,
Sir.
no, the logic is very, very complex. We'll not go into that this thing. Yes, sir, please tell me.
Sir, yeah. My question is,
ಇನ್ನೊಂದು ಕ್ವಶನ್ ಸರ್
as
Okay,
as you said,
yes, please, Prakash sir,
Yeah.
go ahead.
yeah. As you said, it is pre-programmed. The
Yes.
counts are pre-programmed.
Yes.
So let us assume that there is a count for, say, for a person for 50 years.
Okay.
It comes to around 39 and with an average of 15 respirations per minute.
Okay.
Okay, sir.
Mhm.
So for 50 years, it comes to around 39.5 crores, something like that, sir.
Okay.
So what I mean is, if we exercise more or inhalation and exhalation is more, then our period of life, that is Ayush, will it come down? Will it come down?
See, I
If
don't
we,
have.
as per the modern
I
science
got-
says,
I
do
got your
more
question.
exercise. Yes,
See,
sir.
See, always generally it is told in the yoga and all, the slower you breathe, the longer is
Yes.
your life, right?
Yes, sir.
Say, they
Yes,
also say
that's
that
right.
say tortoise has a very long life because
long,
its
yes.
rate of breathing
Rate,
is very slow, right? And
Yes.
also when you
Yes.
see, once again I'll drift into different areas. See, even when you do pranayama, right? So like
Yes.
when you do it in a rhythmic way, you Puraka, Rechaka and Puraka, and you reach a state called Kumbhaka or Kevala Kumbhaka, means where you are neither breathing in nor breathing out, you just stay, the
Stop.
breath stays. So it means that the action is not happening, so you just stay. So when
Yes.
your mind is calm and when your mind is cool, so you breathe in slowly. But when you are in a hurry, when you are in tension, anxiety, you breathe fast. So what does the yoga say? Don't get into all those tension and anxiety. That will make your life shorten, lifespans smaller. So the more calmer you are, your lifespan will be longer. Okay.
Longer. But modern medicine says you do exercise and those things all. It
that
is
is
a
also
little ulta.
as I see, the more what the modern medicine says is the more you exercise, your lung capacity will become stronger, right?
Okay.
Means say when your lungs is not strong, you can only inhale 1 unit of air, but when your capacity increases, you can inhale like say 2 or 3 units of air, so that you don't have to do that exhalation inhalation more
times.
Okay, fine. Yes,
Sir,
Lata ji, please
sir,
ask.
Sir, wrong utilization andre ಏನು? Wrong utilization ಅಂತ ಕೊಟ್ಟಿದಾರಲ್ಲ, what is that?
Where?
Hello.
Where is it given? Wrong utilization?
Yes, wrong utilization causes destruction of the inhalation.
Wrong. Okay,
in
the book.
only. Yes.
Page 12. Okay, I will have to take a look at it.
Okay, sir. Okay.
So,
thank you.
Okay, fine. Anybody else has any questions?
ಸರ್ ಇದು ಇನ್ನೊಂದು ಕ್ವಶನ್ ಇಲ್ಲ ಸರ್, ಇನ್ನೊಂದು ಕ್ವಶನ್. ಇವಾಗ ನಮ್ಗೆ ಡೆತ್ ಬರ್ಬೇಕು ಅಂದ್ರೆ ಬರೀ ಎಕ್ಸಲೇಷನ್ ಆದ್ಮೇಲೆ ಬರ್ಬೇಕು ಅಂತಿಲ್ಲ, ಅಥವಾ ಇನ್ಹಲೇಷನ್ ಆದ್ಮೇಲೆ ಬರ್ಬೇಕು. 0 ಬಂದ್ಮೇಲೆ ಇನ್ಹಲೇಷನ್ ಆದ್ಮೇಲೆನೆ ಡೆತ್ ಬರ್ಬೋದು, ಅಥವಾ ಇಲ್ಲಾಂದ್ರೆ ಎಕ್ಸಲೇಷನ್ ಆದ್ಮೇಲೆ ಡೆತ್ ಬರ್ಬೋದು.
Okay, see this as I told, no, we will I have not seen a person does the life leaves the body when inhalation has completed or the exhalation has completed. So the question that Lataji is asking is it mandatory that the life has to leave the body after the exhalation completes? Can the person leave the body?
Can I answer that?
Yes, ma'am, please.
Can I answer that?
Please.
Yeah. Nita, good evening. Now, this discussion has been going on. As per our Hindu belief, as we are coming back to yoga again, you have the Patanjali's Yoga Sutras. I have read those also. You're talking about all this has been meant because prana, we're talking about pranayama. Pranayama is one of the Ashtangas. Okay. So, and pranayama is one of the ways to lead a good, healthy life as long as you are there in this world. But as per our Hindu philosophy itself, we believe that your life is your longevity, or how many breaths you're going to take, is predetermined. There's no question about it. It is as per our karma. We come into this world that you will be living here so long. The question is that your Purushartha will make you act better. One of the Purushartha approaches is that you will be looking after your health through pranayama. Because prana is the closest to the metaphysical in our body. So that is the reason why we are talking here. Let's not get confused about number of breaths and TCM, and they had their own ways probably of understanding. But practically speaking, Lata asked this question about cessation of breath. Usually it is after, you'll find that there is an inhalation. There's a deep inhalation. I've seen people die. So when there's a deep inhalation, gasping, they say, no, that the patient is trying to draw in air. But at the end, when it comes, the patient attempts to take a breath and it just ceases. It's not in exhalation, but in inhalation, it ceases. Inhalation ceases, that's it. And then it takes a little while for the heart to stop after the breath is stopped. And there are other signs of death which are different. So this is a physiological thing that takes place from the allopathic world when we declare death. But we are talking here about the philosophical side of it and the metaphysical side, many of which really don't have solid evidence. Now only we are finding out many things. Because we don't find actual evidence doesn't mean some theory like what Krishnamurti is saying does not exist. He's only exposing you to the possibilities of thinking about it, of what has been stated in TCM. TCM is written in 2000 years ago. So from what they observed, they probably wrote. Now with modern sciences, we have a lot of, diagnostic, or let us say a lot of, technical, advancements where we can actually measure many things. If you go into nanoparticle, thing, you'll find that they say the nanoparticle has a conscience. We never believed it, but now it is, they are able to demonstrate it. So like that, we are having, as we go on, we're learning it. So 2000 years old philosophy, like Krishnamurti is just trying to explain it in terms of our perceptions. So let us not get confused about it. Just let us expect it for now. And when you think over it, it'll click sometime. Is that all right? It's clicking every time when Krishnamurti talks, even now. I have finished all my courses, everything, but I try to sync it with what we know and what I don't know. So when it is a question of, and we are at that stage. So let us not waste time on saying they have said, is it like this, is it like that? So let us take it from there. I hope I've answered many questions. In my mind, I'm very clear about what you said.
Thank you, ma'am. And I just got one more thing. Like generally, ma'am told the inhalation happens and then the person dies. That could the one reason could be that exhalation is passive at that point of time. Say you blow the air into the balloon, you don't have to suck it out. If you just leave it, it just collapses. The air comes out, right? Something like that. The exhalation, the last exhalation is passive. Okay, so with this, we will move on to the next topic. Okay, the discussion is going beyond what I am thought of. I thought I'll complete the whole paper today. Okay, so I have just been able to complete only one aspect of it. Okay, so probably yes, sir.
If you don't mind, I know Vedadri Maharshi has clarified this.
Yes, sir.
About, see, we get prenatal energy, when we are in fetus, no? It is it will come to the kidney essence, basically comes from brain, though it is not stored there. After a person matures, when he, then when he himself starts producing cerebrospinal fluid, that will rejuvenate the energy. It works like he has compared it to battery, acid level. The cerebrospinal fluid will act like acid level in the battery. It has to be proper. Then only the energy in the battery works properly. He has correlated like that. And then in, here the, of course, with keeping, as our madam has rightly said, keeping Patanjali Yoga Sutra in mind, he has related that to, in scientific ways as to how, a human being, the prenatal energy, how it determines the age, character, everything, how long you live, everything. See, that is why till we get maturity and we produce our own cerebrospinal fluid, it comes from brain to, kidney essence is stored. It is generally assumed that between the kidneys it is stored like that.
Okay.
It depends upon, that is why it depends upon the, why it is called prenatal.
Okay.
Yeah. And when in an accident happens, no, if in a car, if you are going, your battery is fine, still accident happens, means battery get damaged by chance for any external injury or whatever it is, battery goes. In vehicles, it can be replaced, but in human being, it cannot be replaced.
Yes, sir.
Okay. He has compared it, to a, in simple terms, to a battery. But however, I have a little more literature. I can, through Vedadri Maharshi, I'll try to get it in PDF format and send it to you. If you want, you can share it.
Sure,
all the
sir.
doubts can be clear.
Sure, sir.
Okay.
Thank you very much,
Thanks
sir.
for both of you. I mean, Sushila madam and for you. Thanks. It's really interesting to see that people react very beautifully.
Not only that, it's new learning, simple things, but we're having new learning. I'm really appreciative of that. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, madam.
Okay, madam.
So
Go ahead. Go ahead.
Okay, thank you, sir. Okay, so we will get into the next discussion. Okay, on what. Okay, before I get into this, so I will. Okay, so this is a very intriguing topic. Say we once again, those who are new need not worry about these things. So you will get to know later. Okay, okay. Those who have completed the first semester would understand what I am talking. Okay. In TCM, we know that there are 5 elements: okay, wood, water, fire, metal, and oh, sorry, here it is earth. I have okay. So these are the metals, so elements: wood, water, fire, metal, and earth. And each of these 5 elements are assigned with a pair of organ. Okay, liver and gallbladder is assigned to wood, kidney UB to water, heart and small intestine to fire, lungs, large intestine to metal, and spleen and stomach to earth. It is a very well known fact. In my mind, I always used to get this question: why, say, liver and gallbladder is assigned to wood? Why kidney and UB is assigned to water? Why heart to fire? And so on and so forth. And there is some explanation, but it is a very minimalistic explanation. So I was pondering on these questions. Okay. So there are two questions which come here. So why is liver paired with gallbladder like this? So why kidney is paired with UB, so on and so forth. And why, second question is, why this pair is assigned to one particular element? Okay, why not to some other element? Why can't liver be paired with, say, large intestine? Why can't spleen be paired with urinary bladder? And why only this? Okay, so why heart and small intestine has to be paired with fire only? Why not metal? Why not earth? So this kind of questions used to pop up in my head. And I tried to find some solution, and we will discuss this. And I am sure many of you have these questions: why liver and gallbladder, and why wood assigned to that? So first we will try to understand this part: why one organ is paired with another organ, and then we will try to understand why that pair is assigned to a particular element. And why only these organs? What about the other organs? Okay, we will discuss it little later. Okay, most probably in the next class. Only currently we will try to understand why the pairing has happened in this way. So now if we see, one organ is producing something and the other organ is storing what that first organ produced. We will use this logic and we will get an answer to 2 of the pairings. So liver produces bile, and that bile is stored in gallbladder. So liver and gallbladder is paired. Okay. Similarly, kidney produces urine, and that urine is stored in urinary bladder. So the producer and where the storage happens, these 2 are paired, right? Next is heart and small intestine. Heart pumps the blood, and the small intestine helps in producing the blood. In the sense, whatever we eat, the food has to get absorbed, and the absorption happens in the small intestine, and that is the raw material for the blood making. Okay, the small intestine absorbs the nutrients through which the blood gets created, and that blood is circulated in by heart, right? So heart and small intestine is paired. Now these two are interesting. So lungs and large intestine. It is lungs is somewhere in the top of the body, and large intestine is in somewhere near the bottom of the body, like in the torso, bottom of the torso. Now, if we observe closely, both lungs and large intestine are dealing with gases. I am very carefully using each word, so please observe carefully. Lungs and large intestine both are dealing with gases. These are the two organs which deals with gas. How? Lungs through inhalation and exhalation. Large intestine, how? It is through flatulence. Okay, when somebody passes gas, it is happening through large intestine. So if we see that one organ in the top of the torso is managing the gases, I am specifically not telling as air. It is gases. Okay. So the air that we breathe in is a mixture of all gases, nitrogen, oxygen, carbon dioxide, etc. All the things will be there. So I'm using the word gas. So lungs inhales and exhales gas, and large intestine, I can say, throws out the gas from the GIT. So these two are paired. The next is spleen and stomach. If you see, stomach and spleen are both responsible for the digestion, digesting the food and the liquids that are intaken. So here the stomach, the food directly falls into stomach and it ripens and rots. Everything, that process happens in the stomach. And the next, the spleen gives the energy to the stomach as per TCM. Okay. So both stomach and spleen are involved in the digestive process. So stomach and spleen are paired. Also, if we go a little further, we know that, say, stomachs, like those who have studied completed second semester would know this, the stomach sends the energy downwards and spleen sends the energy upwards. So these two, upward and downward, is paired, spleen and stomach. So this is the pairing part. Okay, why these organs are paired? The first two is based on what produces and what stores. Liver produces bile, gallbladder stores the bile, kidney produces urine, and urinary bladder stores the urine. Heart pumps the blood. Small intestine helps to create the blood by absorbing the nutrients. So lungs and large intestine deal with managing the gases of the body. Lungs inhales and exhales the gases, and large intestine exhales or expels the gases from the anal canal. Okay. And next is spleen and stomach. Spleen and stomach both help in the digestive process. That is why these two are paired, and these two are next to each other. Okay. And as per TCM, once again, stomach sends the energy downwards and the spleen sends the energy upwards. So this part, I hope it is clear, right? So the next part is why this pair is assigned to these particular energy. It is very, very intriguing. So we will try to understand with something simpler. Okay. Okay, we will start with the liver. It is not simple. We will start with the liver and then try to understand. So here, when we say wind, we associate it with the movement. The wind moves. Okay. So the movement inside the body is the wind, and that movement is responsible, the organ which is responsible for that movement is liver and gallbladder. How is what we will try to understand. Just a moment, please. Okay, so then we come to this piece. Okay, so we know that the liver is a chemical factory of the human body. It produces more than 1000 chemicals, okay, and it is called as the chemical factory. So here I have shown that it is chemical factory. Now for some moment we will try to look into this battery. Say any battery, say for example lead acid battery, what does it have inside? It has some chemicals, and based on that chemical reaction the electricity is produced. Okay, that is the basic fundamental of a battery, the chemical based batteries. So there is some chemical inside the battery. So lead acid is something as an example I have taken, and based on the reaction of that chemicals electricity gets produced, and that electricity which gets produced we use it in different form that we want. So the chemical reaction is producing the electricity. Now here in the liver, here also a lot of chemicals are being produced, and based on that chemical reactions it may be produced. Once again, all of it is my wild thinking. Okay, it may be producing bioelectricity. So for in human body we need bioelectricity for the body to function. For every small movement, anything that we can think of is based on this bio energy or bioelectricity. How is it happening? For example, let us okay, I'm trying to stop share. Okay, you are able to see my video, right? See, for example, I have a finger. So and if I want to move the finger, what is making the finger move, or the eyelids move, or the head move? For all kinds of movements we need electricity. Okay. Say there is a in electricity, those who have studied electronics or electricals, they know that there is a potential difference. The voltage difference makes the electricity move from one point to another point. Say like just like say water flows from a higher height to a lower height. From waterfalls from a higher height to a lower height, it automatically flows, the water flows. Similarly, electricity from a higher potential to lower potential, the electricity flows. Now that if the height is the same, say in water, like would it flow? It will not flow. So there should be a height difference. When there is a difference in height, the water will flow from a higher height to a lower height. The same with the electricity. So in electricity, the voltage, there should be a difference, which we call potential difference in the voltage. When there is a difference in voltage, the electricity flows. Now, based on that flow of electricity, means say when I bend my finger, what happens? The potential, the electric potential from here to here, there should be a difference, and based on that difference of electricity I am able to bend the finger. So it is based on the difference in potential. So I will get back to the screen sharing. So somebody has raised a hand, so we will first take up the, we'll try to finish as much as we have, then I'll open it up for the questions. Okay, so now this, what we understood, the liver is producing the electricity based on the chemical reactions which is happening, just like a battery. Okay, chemical based battery. So now we will try to understand the further process through this picture. So here there are two things. One is the source of electricity, and that electricity comes into this computer, and the computer, what does it do with the electricity? All the permutation and combinations or the calculations happen inside the computer. The computer does not produce electricity. The computer only uses the electricity and it does the calculations. The electricity is produced here in the source of the electricity is the wall socket. Now, through this, we can understand many of the TCM concepts. Okay, so I have only 10 minutes left. So what I will do, I will take up this session in the next week also, and try to see how much I can cover in the next week. Okay, and I will, so within this 10 minutes, okay, there are two international students who have joined, two international participants, I should say, because I myself am a student. So I would like to both of them to introduce themselves quickly. One is Abdul from Kuwait, and other one is Dr. Arati from Singapore. So if Abdul Aziz, if you could just share about yourself quickly, and also Balrit Kaur ma'am has joined. She is also an international participant. She relocated from India to US. So we have 3 international participants. Okay, if you could share slightly about yourself, Mr. Abdul Aziz. Okay, if Abdul is not available, Dr. Arati. Okay, Dr. Arati is not there. She is there, but both of them are muted. Balrit ma'am is there. She has raised her hand. Please share.
Yes, good morning here in America. I'm in Washington, Maryland. And so I've been really keenly listening to all your lectures, but due to the time difference, I get behind and forward according to the zone. But really, Krishnamurti, how you explain, is so beautiful that even for any amount of knowledge anybody has would want to listen to your, the way you explain it in a very simplified and a very clear examples of science-based TCM. It's a very, very interesting topic. And I've been in this field for a long time now. I don't know since when. It started with yoga, and I did my master's from Kerala and from Nayar Dam from Shivananda, and then met with all the Gurujis that then were alive, Pitabi Joyce and B.K.S. Iyengar. They're all my teachers. So that led me into a deeper knowledge about the body with the metaphysical. And about 7 years back, I happened to meet Dr. Rizvi, and he introduced me to the Sansthan and got me to do the semesters. So I completed 6 semesters with Klesh Singh. And then 4 years back, I went into a deeper knowledge of acupressure and yoga and developed Acu Yoga. So I'm actually now more into Acu Yoga, because acupressure, acupuncture and yoga, when you do it with a lot of intensity and devotion and with concentration, like chand lag jate hain. It's like double jeopardy, to gives double effect to the body and the mind. That's it. And thank you, Krishnamurti. I would love to really continue with you whenever possible. Otherwise, no problem. I'm always.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Okay, so it would be interesting to know the how acupressure or acupuncture is getting utilized in different parts of the world, how popular it is. So that is what I wanted to get from Abdul and Dr. Aarti. So if any of you would like to share how things are in Kuwait, Turkey, and or Singapore, so it would be nice to know. And one more thing is the reason of this sessions is for me to learn. Okay, I myself am a student from our 5th semester, and so many of the concepts are not streamlined. Okay, it will be haphazard here and there, and I see there are some students who are new or who have learned different forms of say acupressure like Sujok, etc., and they are participating in this. So I wanted to see if they could take up a proper course of acupressure which is being taught by Ishan, and we are lucky that Ravindra sir, who is the director of Ishan, has also joined us. And if he could share what are the options that a new person have, and how they can enhance their knowledge about acupressure, it would be great for those newcomers and who wants to enhance their knowledge. So if Ravindra sir, if you could share few things about the activities of Ishan, it would be really great.
Thank you very much, Krishnamurthy. I'm really very proud of you for conducting a wonderful idea of sharing knowledge through this study circle. It's really good, and thanks for giving an opportunity to share about what is Ishan. Friends, Ishan is Institute for Self-Healing through Acupressure and Naturopathy. Institute for Self-Healing through Acupressure and Naturopathy is Ishan. And all of us know Ishan also means consciousness, peak of consciousness where Shiva resides, or Ishvara. Shiva is known as consciousness and Shakti is Parvati. Shiva and Shakti in Indian philosophy, it is called energy and consciousness. And in acupressure, what we treat is energy and consciousness. The concept of treatment is based on energy and consciousness. That is why I have named it as Ishan. See, we all know in allopathy, they treat the diseases individually. They find out which bacteria will kill which, antibodies, allergens, whatever it is. In homeopathy, they treat the symptoms. They collect the symptoms and analyze on which medicine is most suitable for that symptom, and they treat. Like, if there are 3 patients comes for diabetes, medicine is not same. One may be having frequent urination, one may be having sweating, one may be having excess hunger. All the 3 will get different medicines. It is totally based on symptoms. In Ayurveda, it is samadosha. We know that samadosha, samagnischa maladatu malak. Samadosha samagnischa samadhatu malakriya prasanna atma eva indriya manaha swastya ityabhideyate. That is the definition of health according to Ayurveda. That means, the whole world is made out of 5 elements: air, space, fire, water, and earth. Air and space is vata.
Sorry
water
to
and fire
interrupt,
is
sir. Sir, sorry to interrupt. So, the meeting is about to end. So we will, if the meeting ends, we will rejoin. Sir will continue with the introduction about Ishan. And after that, for a few minutes, I can take up some question answers. Okay?
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. It will end. You until it ends, you can continue, sir. We will rejoin after it ends.
Okay. So, whereas in acupressure, a man, a living being is born because of energy. which contains consciousness. And see, energy flows within a living being in a defined path called meridians, energy meridians. It is not chaotic, it flows in a specified route and it passes through one organ. That is why all the meridians are named after one organ. Okay. And whenever there is imbalance of flow in any, its roots, any impediment causes disease. It could be slow stasis, it could be contraction, it could be impediment. Instead of going one route, it goes in different route. It could be deficiency, or it could be excess. And we can balance the energy flow to restore health. This is the concept. By applying pressure through magnets or systematic pressure, methodical pressure, or color, or needle. Yeah, thank you. So, energy has got consciousness. That is the difference between a living being, the bioenergy, or the chi, or the kvi, or the pranakanta shakti, and any other energy. Okay, this energy, bioenergy, controls pattern, precision, regularity of every cell of the body. Like in universe, everything is controlled by energy and consciousness. The whole world is, it contains order of function called pattern, precision, regularity, and time factor. I don't want to go deep into that, but within a living being, we are made of basic units of human body cells. Every cell, its pattern, precision, regularity, and order of function is controlled by energy, which has got consciousness. That is why we are able to, our eyes can perceive light, our nose can perceive smell, our tongue can perceive taste, our ear can perceive sound, like that. Everything, every pattern is shape and form. Precision is its essence, and time factor. It is overall, it is called order of function or consciousness. See, that is the difference between, no other energy can replace this chi or kvi or pranakanta shakti. So, it is energy and consciousness. So, this is the special, that is the divine power. Divine power, that is where we are called Aham Brahmasmi or Shivoham. Because that energy and consciousness is there. That is why I have named it as Ishan. That I have to take more time to explain this, because Ishan is conceived with this idea, and we are the main coordinators of our Samsthan, biggest coordinator of our Samsthan. We have been awarded as the best coordinator in terms of quality and quantity since last 6 years. I have the biggest number of students, biggest institute in India teaching acupressure, bigger than any universities in India, or even our local Allahabad unit. We are part of Samsthan. Samsthan is, of course, India's the biggest institute propagating acupressure through publications, conducting examination, treating, and having clinical studies, research-based clinical studies, through which the outcome is published through Saraswati magazine. And Ishan has, we are conducting certificate, diploma, advanced diploma, and master diploma courses through our Samsthan, which starts in the month of February and July, every 6 months. Every 6 months, there will be one semester. There are 6 semesters of 6 months each. First semester is called certificate course, wherein we teach concepts of TCM and Ayurvedic acupressure along with basics of anatomy and physiology. And we'll give certificate when this session is over. Anybody can easily understand the concept, foundation. And in second semester, we will award a diploma, wherein you will be able to treat most of the simple common diseases. In third and fourth semester, it is called advanced diploma, wherein you can teach most of the diseases. And in fifth and sixth diploma is called master advanced diploma. You'll become an expert like a multi-specialty hospital, and you can even teach. And Ishan, I'm very glad that we have produced, some of the gems in our Sansthan, like our own, Dr. Sushila Kamath, and her team, like, Dr. Saranya, Dr. Navya, so many other, doctors, and our Girish Kumar Joshi, Group Captain Ramesh Kumar, and so many, many of our students are practicing and thriving. Many, but I know, as far as I know, about 50 people are practicing. Some of them have made this as a career. See, they treat at least about 50, 20, 30 people easily. Even if they charge some 100 rupees nominally, they can earn a good lot of amount. I mean, they're making a quite good living, and it is giving, nowadays there is good awareness. Awareness is being spread throughout the country, and there is a good career opportunity. My Ishanites have shown that they can make this as a very good career. I'm proud of everyone, all Ishanites who are practicing and budding practitioner, therapist. And our sincere effort is yielding results. In the days to come, I'm sure that at least Ishan is based in Bangalore. Within next 5 years, Bangalore will become a acupressure hub like IT hub. I'm sure about it, because we have built a system. Even if I am not there, my people, my team is there to carry on. Very good, sincere, we are able to build up a team like, our Priyanka, Prashant, so many people, our Satyanarayan, V.V. Satyanarayan, Professor Satyanarayan, so many, list goes on and on. It's a big list is there. Dr. Vishwanath, so many people are there. And budding, so many people are, they are very with keen interest. Many people are learning. I'm proud of every one of them. I'm sure whoever learns with Ishan, our intention is to see that they become good practitioners, good therapists. All efforts are made by Ishan, like conducting subsidiary and capsule courses at low cost or free of cost to promote and enhance the confidence, clarity of all my Ishanites. That's why we have been awarded as the best coordinator for our Sansthan since the last 6 years. I'm the topper. I think, with this, briefly, I can end up introduction of Ishan. And I welcome all freshers into our fold, and see that, you get the best out of Ishan. So thanks for Krishnamurthy for getting me an opportunity to introduce about Ishan. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. And the first sem classes will start from April first week, I believe, isn't it?
Yeah. Okay. Admissions are still open.
Admissions are still open, and the classes will start from April first week, and it will be an online mode of teaching. So
this
for
semester it will be online. Correct.
For this semester, it will be an online mode of teaching. And those who wants to join and learn the subject systematically, so it is an excellent opportunity for anyone to learn. So with Ishan, to which I am also a student. Okay. So thank you very much, sir. And we have already crossed the time. I can probably take just one question today, and in the next class, we can take up other questions. So anybody has any questions? Okay, I don't see any questions. Probably it could be because of time. Okay, so as every time I mentioned that the Books to Brain series started from Feb 12th, and it is still open. And those who wants to join, they are most welcome to join. The fees is just 1,000 rupees for an entire year for 52 weeks. And the timings is Friday 6:30 to 7:30, Indian Standard Time. And if you want to know more about it, please contact me on my number 91, which is a country code 96323-17950. So thank you once again. Have a good night, those who are in India, and depending on your time zone, have a good day or good afternoon. Thank you. Bye.